Yeah, I'll do the editing later. Kind of jack of all trades. So
Okay.
anyway, welcome. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
My
you
name's
too.
Valerie. Thank you for coming. So Trevor, I checked out your website.
Yeah.
And your blog actually. I'm a fellow blogger.
This is I've two. I've got the
Well, you're one about growing food.
yes, Trevor's Kitchen Garden.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Good.
It gives Rachel Allen a run for her money, I think.
Do you reckon?
I reckon, yeah. But it's the first thing that I noticed was I don't mean to put down any ministers, but you're genuinely into what you're doing. The fact that you're Minister for Food and Horticulture, and that you're so passionate about it. It's kind of unusual.
Well, I was in a very fortunate position when we were negotiating the Cove government as leader. I'd already given the undertaking to the people that I wouldn't lead the Green Party if it came to the point of going in with Fianna Fáil, because I didn't really think that a change of government was what the people wanted. However, the people did not want a change of government for some reason, and we were in the position to negotiate, and the only way of forming a government was with Fianna Fáil. So on that basis, I was in the position of choosing the area of government as Minister of State which most I felt I could contribute to, which was something that I would do anyway, which was to promote healthy food, not just good diet, but also viability in farming, what I'm beginning to call more and more intelligent agriculture, essentially agriculture which recognises the limitations of the soil, climate, water, and also the needs of people for local food. And that's something that I've developed through farmers markets as well as promoting organic gardening and horticulture.
I've written down questions here, from all the students or different students. And I know you're well known for your love of food markets and everything, but what a lot of people are concerned about is that the legislation and the paperwork involved in being a small producer in Ireland is so huge, and it is quite difficult. It seems to be quite difficult for people to, get into being able to sell cakes or sell.
Not as difficult as it used to be, if that's any consolation. It used to be.
It seems to be more difficult, say, than it is in France, where you can maybe buy raw milk from a farmer, and this. It's a bit more relaxed, even though we're in the same union.
Well, farmers can creatively get around that if they want to, go to that trouble, and they do in France and Italy. In very clever ways, they get around the restrictions that are there. In this country, for example, it used to be the case that all eggs that were sold had to be stamped, and it required machinery and required very sophisticated, expensive capital investment. Now we've been able to have a category of smaller producer, and anybody with less than 50 hens, for example, does not have to go to that trouble. And again, it's to encourage people to get involved and to set up on a small basis. And if they grow, well, then they get into a bigger category, and that changes the rules. And I'm constantly looking for ways of making it easier for people to gain entry at a small level. That's why I set up an artisan food group in the department, where we have people coming from all over the country, actually, who are representing the cheese. The Artisan Food Forum.
Okay.
And it includes people from a beekeeping background, cheese making background, poultry, artisan meat, dairy, and overall it covers the disciplines that generally you find in artisan food.
And what does the forum do? That's somewhere for people to come together and swap
It
skills?
basically does exactly what you're doing now, and says, I have a problem because of the paperwork, or I can't be expected to do X, Y, Z because I'm only this size. The department takes that concern, looks to see where does the problem lie, gets around it by either ensuring that the health and safety is not compromised, but at the same time.
So, allotments. Will you tell me a bit about your ideas and your wishes for allotments in Ireland?
Well, I am somebody who encourages local authorities, and I met with county managers brought them all together to discuss the remit that local authorities have, because under the legislation, it's under planning legislation that allotments are established. The Department of Agriculture deals with farms and larger parcels of land, and for people with back gardens or school gardens or allotments, that comes into the remit of local authorities.
As you know, there's been an embargo, isn't there, in local authorities on creating new jobs at the moment. Well, I know in Limerick that anyone whose job runs out or whose contract runs out who's on a part-time basis, they're not going to be. Do you think it's realistic?
Well, I don't know what you mean.
Will there be, say, allotment officers? Are there new people needed to work in the public service?
But allotments shouldn't be bureaucracy. I mean, that defeats the purpose. The whole idea is to give people the freedom to grow. And the first thing I'd say is that an allotment is not the best way of providing some of your own food. The best way, if you have the opportunity, is your back or your front garden, because you're close by and growing, as I can certainly speak from experience in that regard, especially if you're anyway busy, does require you to be able to nip out to the garden and nip in again and maybe have 5 or 10 minutes here and there to snatch. An allotment requires somebody to plan to take a space of time, and if you don't do that, you're going to be very frustrated because you're going to find yourself with a very overgrown allotment. So the idea quite often can be very attractive, but the reality needs to be checked out by asking people, how much time actually do you need to make this allotment work? And people who think that, half an hour a week, or I can nip out for an hour on a Sunday, will probably find themselves extremely frustrated, because they'll be going there and they'll be weeding rather than growing.
Sure.
So it does take time. That being said, though, I've had an amazing experience visiting allotments and finding that some of the best allotment holders are actually busy people. But they're busy because, and they get up very early in the morning, and they would, spend time, lunch breaks and other time that they might be doing other stuff. So it depends on your level of commitment. But the one thing I would say, though, is that for a local authority to recognise there is a demand, and under the 1926 Allotment Act, the local authority has to have regard to. It's not a legal obligation that you can take to court over, like a human right or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of people have mentioned that, you're entitled to, but it doesn't seem to be.
Well, they have to have a regard for it, which basically means the local community, would be well advised to set up an allotment association, for example, and to actually provide a framework that the local authority could more easily, given that there is a staffing embargo and that resources are always going to be shortened in the coming few years anyway, there is a need to actually, help the local authority to help you by providing and saying, look, here's our allotment association. We have a chairperson. This is the person you can deal with. We have 20 members, and if the allotment was provided, if 20 allotments were provided, or 30 or whatever, we would be able to help in managing that, by basically having a gate, having a key holder.
I'm trying to do a project like this in Limerick City myself at the moment, because I live in an old terraced house, and basically some land has just become free behind our house, and now it's just blank space covered in topsoil. And I have been in touch with the council, and I'm sending in my application, I suppose.
Yes.
And they've said, the management structure is what they want to see, and that's.
Thanks very much.